Hello and welcome on Watches TV, and today I have the pleasure of presenting you a few sweet lots that will be part of the next spring auction of Ination Zurich, an auction taking place on the 12th of March. So the 7 pieces selected today are part of a pink gold thematic with approximately 40 watches overall included in this La Vie en Rose sale, and we'll have 2 Vacheron, 2 FP Journe with a very interesting feature regarding their dials, 2 Harry Winstons, and a very special Girard-Perregaux, and we'll actually start with this one. So this is the GP reference 99350, inspired by the famous WWTC collection of the brand, standing for Worldwide Time Control. So this was launched during the era of Luigi Macaluso, and this piece was not part of a limited edition per se, but was limited by production volumes, and this particular model is number 10 of that series. A series started in 2005 and ended in 2010. It's 43mm in width, 13.15 in height, and comes in a rose gold case, something I will not repeat for the next watches as it's the theme of the auction, right? So when you have a first look on the dial side, you actually see at a glance that all the Earth time zones, including day-night indication ring, are featured on the dial side. And as a side story, one of the hours featured on that ring is Caracas, and this was made obsolete when Venezuela decided to give a 30-minute move to their time zones, something which may nevertheless add some kind of additional historical value to this piece. And something you don't necessarily immediately grasp apart from that small red marking on the dial, but when you flip it around, well, you will see a very distinctive feature of GP with this absolutely gorgeous tourbillon on the 3 golden bridges. And we have to remind that GP was clearly the leader in the field of tourbillons in the 80s and 90s, when tourbillons were not yet that big thing, and some famous brands who did it were using actually escapements from GP at the time. But once more, that is a little well-kept secret that not many people know. Well, I can add that the 3 golden bridges at Girard-Perregaux are always made in 18-karat rose gold because thanks to a special hardening trick with temperature, well, it is the hardest gold you can get, something obviously important for such a vital element and component of your watch. Anyhow, the movement is very nicely hand-finished and holds 75 hours of power reserve. Okay, next timepiece with this Vacheron Constantin Patrimony Traditionnel Perpetual Calendar, reference 43172, a model produced between 2007 and 2021. It comes in a round 39mm case, 8.82mm in height, and as you can see, it has been extensively open work. And since this timepiece has a traditional buckle and not a folding clasp, well, you can very easily admire its movement and this skeletonization and engraving done on most structural component of the watch, mainplane, bridges, and so forth, and including the rotor. But this skeletonization also allows you to see inside of the barrel, and if the mainspring is tightened towards its center, well, this means the watch is fully wound, kind of a very subtle power reserve indication. Regarding the perpetual calendar, there is also something quite interesting to say, as most modern QPs have leap year indicators, whereas this one features a 48-month sub-dial at 12 o'clock, something you would, for instance, find on some old pocket watches. The movement is the caliber 1120, which shares the same base as caliber 2121 used by Audemars Piguet on its very first Royal Oak. But it is assembled by the Vacheron team of watchmakers here in Geneva, and this watch naturally holds the Geneva seal that you can see on the balance bridge. Last but not least, this caliber also has a hanging barrel just held on the bridge side, and the rotor is fixed on a ring that is supported by 4 ruby rollers. And you can clearly see one of them on the dial side at 5 o'clock, and thanks to the hanging barrel and to this type of rotor supported by a ring, well, this watch can be extremely thin. Okay, next piece, and we remain with Vacheron Constantin, with this beautiful Malte openwork tourbillon reference 30067, coming in this tonneau-shaped case, size 36mm in width and 11.8 in height. This one is also heavily skeletonized and engraved, and on the dial side you will see a date indicator at 2 o'clock and a power reserve indicator at 10 o'clock. And coming back to what I just mentioned before, well, when you wind this timepiece, you will see the indicator go up, and at the same time, the shape of the mainspring inside the barrel just changed slightly. Interesting as well, a tourbillon cage is almost always equilibrated, and if you have a look at the cage of that tourbillon, well, you will recognize the Malta Cross, symbol of the brand. But when you have a look at the opposite of the escapement wheel, the wheel with the funny teeth, well, you will see two quite strong counterweight precisely used to re-equilibrate, rebalance everything. So this is really a very beautiful timepiece, and one which sits, I have to say, very nicely on my small wrists. So let's continue, and let's be much less classic with the Opus 5 by Harry Winston, made in 2005 in collaboration with Felix Baumgartner, and the Opus series of watches having been initiated at the time by Max Büsser when he was CEO of Winston. So inspired by his Uhrwerk satellite and retrograde time indication system, this is of course something you will see on this Opus 5, as well as a day-night indicator and a power reserve indicator. And on the movement side, well, you also see a time to service indicator. So this piece is pretty spectacular in terms of size, 50 millimeter in width, and it does weigh quite a lot, quite a nice hockey puck there on your wrist. But how original is this? The crown here is well protected at 3 o'clock under an 18-karat rose gold protection hood, and I have to admit that it is quite pleasant to manipulate, especially to find this pretty large size crown, making winding and time setting very comfortable. So coming back on this service indicator, a patented Uhrwerk mechanism, well, this will tell you when you have to bring your watch for service after 5 years of usage. And the movement, which holds 222 hours of power reserve, is made out of RCAP, a pretty rare alloy used in watchmaking, and another Uhrwerky touch to this piece, as well as this other special screw found on the case back, where the owner can directly act on the length of the hairspring and therefore adjust by yourself the speed of your watch depending on your wearing habits. Anyhow, quite a crazy piece, and overall there were 100 Opus produced, 100 Opus 5 produced, 45 in rose gold, 45 in platinum, and 10 were kind of gem set, very Harry Winston. But let's remain with Harry Winston, with a quite rare piece with his Eccentric Tourbillon Reference 200, made in collaboration with our friend Peter Speak Marine, but today known as Peter Speak only. And it comes in a 40 millimeter size case, but standing quite tall at 12.85 millimeter. Quite an original shape. And talking of original shapes, well, the same can be said about the tourbillon bridges seen on both sides. And it was limited to 75 pieces in rose gold, and another 75 were made in platinum. And this tourbillon watch features kind of a double power reserve indicator that you can see on the case back. On one side it will track the first 50 hours, and on the other till the full 110 hours of the power reserve of this timepiece. Okay, next timepiece with the exquisite FP Journe, the Octa Calendrier Sincere limited edition, an annual calendar watch from the mid-noughties and made for the Singaporean retailer. And in terms of design specificities, I just wanted to highlight this very original black dial made from mother of pearl, and I can promise you that you can't grasp this by quickly looking at it. I mean, it is really quite spectacular, and you need to play with light to fully get this. And as mentioned, it is an annual calendar, which means that you just have one adjustment to do every year on March the 1st to adjust that odd month of February compared to full QPs. So you have a retrograde date indicator going around the left part of the dial, day indication in a small window at 10 o'clock, and month at 7. And it's part of a limited to 10 pieces limited edition, and same can be said about the next piece, our final piece of today's video, and what a hot piece this is. So this is a chronomètre à résonance, was also done as a 10-piece limited edition for Sincere, like I just mentioned, and also features this mother of pearl dial, but compared to the previous model, here it's even harder to distinguish. Resonance is a phenomenon that occurs, for example, between two oscillating balance wheels, and if they are placed close enough with the ultimate goal of making this piece more accurate, as these balance wheels adapt to one another. And if you don't really care about this, well, you can definitely say that this is the most refined double time zone watch which exists. At noon, you have a power reserve indicator made in the style of FP Journe, meaning that 0 means fully wound and 40 means that 40 hours have passed since it was fully wound. Kind of opposite to what is done today, but on par with what was done centuries ago. At 12 o'clock, you have a crown to wind the barrels in the first position and set the time in the second position, going one direction for one of the movement and on the other direction setting the other movement. At 4 o'clock, you have an additional crown which serves to synchronize both second hands. And this, of course, is, just an extremely desirable timepiece. So desirable that I wouldn't like it to leave our club space. Sits just nicely here. So we reached the end of this review, and there are plenty of other interesting lots regarding the soon-to-be auction of the 12th of March. And don't hesitate to go to Ination's website to see this by yourself. So thanks for watching, and I have to say that I've been pretty spoiled today with such a selection. Not every day that I can have this in front of me all at once. Well, I hope you enjoyed it too, and viva watchmaking. See you real soon.